Ghost stories? No, we don't have anything like that around here. We do have the story of Jacob, but that's about as close as you'll get. You really want to know? Well, I'm not supposed to tell you, but... Alright, just no interrupting. I don't have the patience for that. How to describe Jacob Emory? Well, I guess you could say he was the kind of guy you could never take notice of. This isn't to say he was a bad kid in any sense. Many people in this town thought he was the most reliable person for an odd job in the state, but he never really excelled in anything. He's a living proof behind the statement, Jack of all trades, master of none. Most of his was due to his own lack of will. He dabbled in damn near everything this town could offer him, automobiles, radio operations, store management, what have you, but he never stuck with anything. His friends and workers went after him about it a number of times, but everybody got the same unsatisfying response. It just wasn't enough. Needless to say, any friends he kept were either very patient or never spoke of the matter altogether. It's probably inevitable, then, that Jacob would leave to go abroad. I don't remember where it went, but I think Gertrude down the street knew before she passed on. You'll have to scout somebody else out if you ever get curious. In any case, no one ever really tried to stop him. Everybody thought that a little travel would stamp the ambition out of him, or else feed it until it was no longer an issue. Well, we even gave him a send-off party, which I thought was pretty nice of everybody. So, anyway, he was gone for 6, 7 years, can't remember. You'll have to check with somebody else about that, too. Anyways, he came back eventually, and he had changed, obviously enough. He was amiable, energetic, all smiles all the time. We all quickly learned why. Showed us a souvenir he'd brought back. Solid black stick, a length of a pencil, but with like the texture of chalk. We all wondered why on earth such a thing would prompt such a spring in his step, till he gave us a demonstration. Took a piece of paper, and with a stick, there's got to be a better word for it, with the stick he drew a crude circle, and it dropped, and rested on the border of the paper like a stone. Didn't leave the paper, but it acted out on it, sort of like an old movie projector on a screen. Son, I know how crazy that sounds, and if you feel like playing skeptic, then you can leave an old man to his craziness, but I know what I saw, even if everyone's been hushing up, and that stone he drew done dropped. Jake even passed around the paper, and as it was being passed, it rolled around the paper as the paper got tilted. None of us had any words for it. Hell, what was there to say? But he continued drawing demonstration after demonstration for us, stick figures and various pageants, and playing doing everything from fighting each other to making perfect human pyramids, and we all thought it was incredible. That was all the go-ahead he needed. He now was planning to put on shows to pay for food and rent, where he could draw anything the crowd members wanted. That we talked to some length about, and he eventually convinced us it would be safe as drawings ethical, and practice lucrative and unique, and the attention would not go anywhere outside the town's borders. Poor Jacob. If I've not been so swept up in the moment, I might have read the signs right then and there and saved the son of a bitch by snapping the terrible thing in half, but I was younger. We all were. We saw no problem with encouraging him with what we all saw was an incredible experience to be shared with everybody else. Now, he didn't have any big radio or television connections, mind you, and that internet wouldn't come around for another decade. So he did what all people on a shoestring budget do. He advertised the show with flyers. Flyers might not mean anything to you city folk, but in a small town they get a fair glance over from time to time. And what's more, Jacobs managed to stick out by having little figures jump up and down and whatnot and get people's attention. His first show must have gotten nearly 60 or so people, probably a lot more than that. And his shows were fantastic. Someone would shout out a scene from a play or a comedy sketch, and Jake's hand would fly over a white wall like a bird. He'd been holding back when he made that stone, that's for damn sure. The illustrations were all spot on, and he could make an incredible human figure in minutes. Come to think of it, I don't remember any of his scenes lasting more than 10 minutes. Hick. They were all well-done scenes, too. Not only could you see a knight charge a castle, Jake would draw the castle's interior as well, with wedding cake split right down the middle, so you could see the knight scale the walls, fight his way through levels to the dungeon, fight back out with the princess, make a leap and jump off cast pits to on his getaway horse, all in complete silence. Not realistic, no, but that was part of the appeal. None of us went there expecting anything real. When the scene sketch finished, I had the characters leave off the wall or cover the wall with white paint. That was good in a way. It gave these shows a little time limit, so when we finished with all 4 of the walls in the room, everyone knew the show was over until the paint dried. Jake, meanwhile, was changing in a bad way. I mentioned that upon his return, he'd been extremely energetic. Well, that energy, that vitality or fervor, whatever you want to call it, it never left, not for an instant. Far from it, he seemed to grow out of him. He enjoyed it all too much. His eyes got wider, he slept less and less, his statements got more radical and frenzied. And though he was never a pushover, he started making people nervous in his company. A month or 2 passed. Jake's audience grew like wildfire. Everyone in the town paid to see Jake's art in action. He had to rent out larger places for them to sit. He didn't stop after one scene was done. He moved directly on next. Put on the next blank space on the wall, sometimes an intriguing effect of causing scenes to mingle. The crowds loved that. Subject got more wild and immoral, and monsters got more bizarre and creative. Fighters using more impossible weaponry, all the sake of the crowd's interest. Jake got steadily more indulgent, which we figured was from the money, and he became a drinker and a womanizer, neither of which got rid of that vitality, by the way. Some of those women claimed that they'd woke him up in the middle of the night and see him scribbling with that stick on the drawing pad, a big grin on his face. Most of them said they'd assumed it was drawing them in the nude. There was rumors that 1 or 2 got glances at the notepad that was anonymous to his head. Those drawings absolutely were not nude pictures, but neither of them, wherever they are, will say what he was drawing. Don't bother looking for the notepads, flyers, though they're all long gone. I'm getting off track. Point is, he was hitting the bottle, and that's important, because it was the drinking that would ruin him. On the night of one of his performances, he was walking in front of his cheering crowd and was immediately apparent to everybody that he was completely drunk. I was in the front row. I could smell the bourbon on him from 10 feet away. Show started. He went through a bunch of sketches and scenarios. Crowd recommended. At the end, someone asked him to draw himself. Everyone liked the idea. I guess they'd been wondering what his creations thought of him, and he obliged. No sooner had Jake finished conducting the last 2 lines on his coat than every single character across the vast wall all stopped and looked directly at that illustration. Lovers stopped kissing, clowns stopped laughing, robots stopped fighting pirates. Everyone stopped and looked at the Jacob illustration. The crowd died almost instantly. I remember Jake's face in the moment, pale white, full of terrible comprehension at his mistake, looking desperately for the cans of white paint he'd forgotten to put out before the show. Everyone else, they were looking at the fake Jacob. Jacob reached in Jack's pocket, pulled out a black stick of his own, and as we all watched, he drew a door, pushed on his side, and the door swung open, allowing him to walk through right out on the floor of that there auditorium. The rest was pandemonium, people screaming and running for the exits. Jacob's characters that was on the wall and has been left before being covered up ran out of their own exit, throwing pies, shooting lasers, blowing fire and poison and impossible. As near enough to exit to escape, give one black backward glance. That scene will haunt me forever. Jacob Emory was being dragged by his creations, kicking and screaming through the door his copy had made. Auditorium burned down, obviously, but I have no idea how many characters escaped, what happened to the fake Emory, and how many people died. Fire brought the fire department from the near cities all over the 100 miles away. They in turn brought the police force, brought the government, which hushed everything up. They took the flyers and any art, and swore everyone was secrecy or else life detainment. The fire was blamed on a cigarette in the garbage during the basketball game, and we all eventually went on with our lives. Jake was never to have been existed. In retrospect, I realize everything. Jake hadn't been creating illustrations. Illustrations don't move, much less act or attack. They're just images people see, shadows to look like the real thing. Jake had been making life. Actual thinking things in some alternate dimension using a power that was never meant to fall in mortal hands. He got drunk on that power. His punishment was probably well deserved. Incidentally, the government screwed up on 2 different accounts. They did a damn good job, science everyone, but proof remains. Ruins are still there, auditorium ruins. I hear they're going to start reconstruction soon, wipe out any remaining evidence that one can definitely see, but I went back there once, several years after the fire, just once. Amid the rubble, covered in ash, I saw something squirming. I looked closer. It was Jacob Emory's hand on the wall, exactly like it had been 3 years ago. But it was constantly flailing as if the body was supposed to be attached to it was still writhing in the flames. That was mistake number 1. Number 2 was those creations. Like I said, I don't know how many escaped nor how many the government agents found and caught, but I will say only this. Those tall grass meadows on the outskirts of town, don't go into them. Ever. You were asking about those white figures you see at night, right? This town doesn't have ghost stories.